just don't like the fields at night. I feel like I should be wearing a hat and going, I just don't like the fields at night. You're gonna owe me big time. You know what I want. She wanted to be screwed. Do you think you would start crying if you saw your own dead body? I probably wouldn't. I'd be like, what? So rare I can still hear the cow mooing. Moo! Hello everyone, and welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel. I'm Jessica Layla, and today marks the first week of Spooky Month. I love this time of year so much. I am literally, genuinely tweaking over this. I love this time of year! So I'm really excited because this is the first year where we're going to be posting some spooky content. Now, I've read creepy stories on this channel before, some creepypastas, and one creepy Reddit video of really poorly written Reddit stories. They were like horror stories, and they just were not good. Suddenly, I hear my dad say, I'm going to find you, and when I do, I'm going to tear your skin into little pieces, then fry them, and then eat them. Next, I'm going to suck on your eyeballs, maybe boil them, and have them for lunch. But today, because it's the first week of October, we're going to be checking out some scary story subreddits. Everybody, just cozy on up, cuddle in. It's like 50 degrees out right now, and I'm thriving, I'm living. Hopefully everybody's doing well. Grab yourself some hot cocoa or some pumpkin spice, whatever your jam is. Settle in, and let's dive right in with the first story. This comes from Forgotten Well. Let me rotate my screen. My wife was killed over a worthless piece of jewelry. Every Friday at 7:30, I sit down at Dory's Steakhouse and order a blackened 12-ounce ribeye with a side Caesar and double serving of horseradish mashed potatoes. That's the true horror story here. Horseradish mashed potatoes. So rare I can still hear the cow mooing. Moo! I'm a well-done man myself, but not my wife. She likes her steak bloody. That was the last meal she ever ordered. It was our anniversary, and I should have been there with her, but my connecting flight got delayed. I couldn't get another flight until morning. I was the one who told my wife she should go out anyway, that I'd be back in the morning, and we could celebrate then. I hope you can forgive me, I said through the phone. You're gonna owe me big time. You know what I want. She wanted to be screwed. If she lived through the night, it would have been my honor to oblige her. Waiter! Check, please. I paid my check and left, walking through the alley behind Dory's like I always do, like my wife did that night. She left after scarfing down her anniversary dinner and took a shortcut so she could get to her car quicker. A man jumped out from behind a dumpster and pulled out a knife on her, commanding her to take off all her jewelry. She started with her pearl earrings, then took off the gold necklace I got her for Christmas, but when he asked her for her wedding ring, she refused. Ironically, it was the only worthless piece of jewelry she had on her. It was my mother's ring. Cheap and tarnished, but it had a lot of sentimental value. F you! You can't have it! My wife spat in her mugger's face and tried to push past him. That's when robbery escalated to murder. Maybe it was an accident, or maybe he panicked, but he stabbed her throat and ran. She tried to call me, but my phone was on airplane mode. I didn't get to hear my wife's last words. She had to leave a message. Through gasps of air and gurgling, all she could say was, red coat, gold knife, brown boots. A perfect description of the very man who just jumped out and pulled a knife on me. No funny business. Give me your wallet and your phone. Criminals are nothing if not creatures of comfort. I knew if I walked through the same alley she did, if I followed her routine long enough, the man would appear again. Now! Give me your damn wallet. I held my hands up in panic. It's in my coat pocket, I cried. I'm not resisting, just take it. The mugger slowly reached into my coat pocket. What the hell is this? Not knowing what he was holding onto, the mugger slowly pulled out a live hand grenade. I quickly grabbed onto his hand so he couldn't drop it, and then pulled the pin. We both owe my wife an apology. Let's go meet her. This is less creepy and more sad. The poor wife. I don't know if I would qualify this as scary, but it did do pretty well. It got, let's see, 1,671 upvotes, so I would say it did pretty well. Dad has been acting different. I was too young to remember what my father was like before he changed. I see pictures of him and Mom before they had me. They looked really happy. He looked really happy. What I can remember, though, was the first time I noticed him look at my mom with contempt. That was 3 years ago. I've gotten wiser over time. I've gotten better at noticing the signs. The brewing rage, the clenched fists, the nightly glass of whiskey that seems to grow in volume every week. It was a slow transition at first. I could see in Mom's eyes that she was surprised by his shift. He stopped giving her kisses goodbye. Stopped bringing her home flowers. Made no plans for their anniversary. What seemed like careless failures in the beginning has turned into outright hatred. I could see she is starting to become terrified. I could have sworn last week he was almost ready to hit her. She's not been sleeping, and I think he's actually capable of hurting her. He's been on the verge of snapping for a long time. Tomorrow is the anniversary of my death. I know he's been suspicious for years. I know he never did believe that I was kidnapped. But it's different now. 3 days ago, he found my bloodied shirt that Mom buried under the floorboard. I hope he does snap. I hope now he'll finally have the nerve to kill her. You know what? I like the twist. It's a good short story. It really packs a punch! And that comes from feeling_sky_7775. I don't know if this one is true, but this is by Mint Jump. Someone knocks on my door at 3:33 a.m. every night. I wish I didn't find out who it was. Knock, knock, knock. The knocking was barely loud enough to pull me out of my sleep. With my eyes drooping from tiredness, I pulled out my phone and checked the time. 3:33 a.m. Who the hell was at my door at 3 in the morning? With my back still hurting from the unpacking at this new apartment, I got up and slowly walked to my door. The white-painted wooden door looked as if placed in the spotlight by the moonlight coming from the window. Swing. I swing open the door and... no one. Whoever decided to break my sleep in the night was already gone. Maybe a drunk neighbor knocked on the wrong door before realizing their mistake. Who knows? I closed the door and retired to my cozy sleep. You can't blame me for not suspecting more. How could I have known? The knocking would come back the next night. Knock, knock, knock. The knocking came back, breaking my sleep yet again. My eyes shot open, and I checked my phone in frustration. 3:33 a.m. I'd had a terrible day, so naturally I stomped furiously out of the bedroom toward my door. This is my second day in this bloody place, and you all can't even let me sleep. I swing open the door with a frown visible on my face. There was no one. Of course, I grunted. Locked the door, and after mourning my interrupted sleep, decided to hit the bed again. The knocking continued for another 3 days, leaving me restless each night. It was the same thing at the same time each night. 3 knocks at 3:33 a.m. The constant commotion had robbed me of sleep, and my exhaustion festered into anger. I was going to find out who was doing this. So, I sat on my sofa all night waiting for 3:33 a.m. By the time the clock hit it, I was struggling to keep my eyes open with all the willpower I had. As soon as the clock hit 3:33, I jumped up, ran to the door with all the anger that had piled up through the nights, and swung open the door yet again to an empty hallway. Mother trucker lucked out today. Mother trucker lucked out today, I whispered, and then I heard it. Knock. 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 But this time, the knocking did not come from the main door. It came from behind me. My body grew cold and my anger was replaced with the realization that made my spine shiver. Slowly and unwillingly, I turned around. The knocking had come from my bedroom door, which was shut closed. Was someone in my bedroom? Was I in danger? What should I do? Should I call the cops? All the adrenaline pumped by my anger had dried out while I contemplated what to do. Hello? Is anyone there? I asked loudly. When no answer came back, I slowly went and turned the doorknob of my bedroom. As the door squeakily opened, it revealed my bedroom with someone in it. All my blood dried, and I stared at the person in my bed, unable to move a muscle as if I were in sleep paralysis. The person was... me. I watched my mangled body, with its blood-red eyes and mouth that was frozen in its scream, and then the door flew shut in my face, knocking me back on the living room floor. My eyes swelled up and I crawled into a little ball and cried for the remainder of the night, unable to process the fact that I just saw my very own dead body. Do you think you would start crying if you saw your own dead body? I probably wouldn't. I'd be like, what? I must have dozed off, because the next thing was waking me up the next night. With a dried mouth and tired eyes, I crawled my way to my phone in the living room and checked the time. I was a minute early. I waited for a minute until 3:33 a.m. hit. Knock, knock, knock. Even though it was curled up just in front of the main door, I couldn't muster the courage to open it. But then it flew open, showing me the empty hallway. I kept staring at the empty hallway, and after a while noticed the roof had a person stuck to it. And then, without warning, the figure dropped with a loud thud. I screamed and cried as I saw the person was my body. Laying on the floor, it looked at me with its dead eyes that bled tears of blood. "Please stop," I cried. It did not stop, though. Every night I passed out from exhaustion after crying, only to wake moments before the inevitable knock. I don't need to drink anymore. What's the point? The knocks have shown me so many ways that I can die, each one worse than the last. I can't take this anymore. I want to escape, but the doors won't let me. I'm writing this at 3:30 a.m. Only 3 minutes until the knocking shows another death of me. I just wish this time it killed me for real, because I'm scared. I'm scared this is going to continue forever. Honestly, if it was me, I'd probably just sleep right through it. You could toss a 10-pound weight onto me. Once I'm asleep, I'm out. So I'd probably just sleep through the thing knocking. What would you do in a situation like that? Because they said that they're not allowed out. They can't contact their neighbors. And the original poster, obviously this is a fake story. Someone was like, speak to your neighbors. And they say, you make a good point, but I never get the chance to get their contact info ever since I moved into this apartment. I've not left, meaning that they are stuck in there. So in a situation like this, what do you do? Literally, what do you do? Some of these go on for like 800,000 million years. I don't want this video to be like 45 minutes. Okay. This comes from Glittering Slip 2879. No exit 202. I used to be a trucker. Was for about 10 years, I think. I don't do driving anymore. Try to limit as much as I can, even outside of work. Now, I don't have a fear of driving. I have a fear of destinations. Every time you get into a car, you have a destination in mind. A place you want to go. Even if you don't have a specific place in mind, that place is just a way. The saying is about the journey, not the destination. Bullcrap. When is the car ride to your vacation spot the fun part of the trip? Never. Usually just awkwardly quiet. That's besides the point, though. What I hate the most, though, is driving through the Midwest. I swear, every single one of those towns is just the same. Identical. Cookie cutter. Gas stations, few neighborhoods, corner store. Once you've seen one, you've seen them all. True. That's true. That's really true. It's midsummer. I've been going through miles and miles of just cornfields as far as the eye can see. Flat fields of corn. Oddly beautiful during the day, like a sea of green spreading out there. During the night, though, you can only imagine what might be hiding in those corn stalks. As a trucker, you have to remain vigilant. If something, or for some godforsaken reason someone, were to dart out, I wouldn't be able to stop. Just don't like the fields at night. I feel like I should be wearing a hat and going, I just don't like the fields at night. I'm on Route 23, somewhere between Iowa and Nebraska, and it's getting dark. When it gets dark in the Midwest, all you have is the lights on your truck and the light of the moon. Here's something you might not know. The majority of large truck crashes happen in rural areas. I personally have some of my closest calls in rural areas. There's nothing for miles, not even a turn in the road. Your brain basically just starts to turn off, go on autopilot. Never a good thing when your mind starts to wander while operating a 30-ton killing machine. So, when I start to get tired, I start to look for a place to rest for the night. That's what I was doing when I stumbled across exit 202. I had driven down this road a good few times before, but this exit was new to me. I just figured there might have been some new developments since the last time I had been down the route. I was curious, tired, and hungry, so I took the exit and headed down the road. Corn! That's all I can say. Corn. This road was narrow. I struggled to stay in my lane as the highway ended and gave way to a mostly neglected road. Unkempt and rough. Looking into the distance, there was nothing. No lights, no buildings, not even another car on the road. Just corn. So much corn. That's when I saw it. A small clearing on the side of the road with a large neon pink sign beckoning me closer. Mabel's Diner. Getting closer, it looked like it was on its last legs. The light was dim, flickering in the night. From what I can see from the safety of my truck, the diner looked rusted and near decrepit. Although an open sign and lights within, with nowhere else to go, I hopped out of my truck and entered the building. As I entered, a weak-sounding bell heralded my entry. The place was nearly empty, with a few patrons who barely even looked up from their plates as I walked in. The waitress behind the counter looked at me with a dull gaze. This poor woman seemed exhausted, as if she had been working here just as long as the building had been. Her name tag was only more proof of this. Reading Mabel. I just asked for the house special, and she served me some pretty basic eggs and sausage, with a tired smile. My nose began to sniffle. I've always had allergies. Something about this place, though, was especially bad. Like, stuck in a hayloft bad. My nose would just not stop leaking, my eyes were starting to water, and I was severely starting to regret not taking my allergy medicine earlier. As I ate, my mind began to wander. The food was just forgettable. It was sustaining, but utterly unfulfilling. Makes sense why the place looks so worn down. Who would come all the way out here for this? I'm naturally adopting a southern accent. That's when a big feeling of unease began to creep into my chest. The place was silent. Not a single noise. There is always noise no matter where you go. Scraping of utensils on plates, quite murmuring. Hell, even the humming of lice or even a fly buzzing past. This place was just utterly silent. I paid for my meal, throwing down a wad of cash as I left, leaving all of the disheveled patrons behind me. I walked out into that pitch-black parking lot and came to a terrible realization. The parking lot was empty. Not a single vehicle out there, including my truck. It was gone. I was stranded in this horrible place. I pulled out my phone, tried calling my boss, and of course, because I'm in the middle of nowhere, no signal, and no escape, I heard a faint jingle of a bell opening and a cold voice cutting through my chest. "Mabel," she said to me. "Oh dear, your truck gone? Come on in. Stay a while. We'll call someone for you." She stood so still in the doorframe, a silhouette dimly lit by the dingy light behind her. When people stand still, they still move. Their chest rises and falls as they breathe, maybe a drum of their fingers against their leg, a small shifting back and forth in their stance, but she was deathly still, like a mannequin. It wasn't just that, but her voice just sounded wrong. Flat, hollow. I was filled with a sense of dread, like if I followed along with her, I would not be leaving that diner. So I slowly turned around and began walking back the way I came. Maybe if I made it back to the highway, I could hail someone down and get to a place to fill in my boss and figure out what to do about my truck. And I walked, and I walked, and I walked, and I walked. The corn all around me, so utterly alone. It was dark, no lights, no nothing. Just the rustling of corn in the moonlight to guide me. Then I heard that piercing voice again. "Stay a while. We'll keep you company." I spun around, and there she stood, standing in the road, deathly still. "Stay a while." The corn to my side shifted, and some of the patrons of the bar slowly made their way out. Now looking closer, I came to a terrible realization. The reason they were silent, the reason they didn't even seem to breathe, in the glimmer of the moonlight, as they approached me, I saw what they really were. Their skin was stretched tight, more of a mask than their own flesh. Peeking from underneath the seams of their skin, around their neck was straw, poking out from between the stitches that held them together. They grabbed me, holding on to me with a strength I never felt before. Mabel just got closer and closer to me. I trashed against their grip, screaming and crying against the men who were holding me back. Mabel only got closer, her cold, dead eye staring into me. "Stay a while." Her hand stretched out, touching my neck, an icy stillness spreading through my body. Adrenaline is one hell of a drug. I kicked her right in the stomach with all of my strength. It was like kicking a brick wall. She stumbled back, looking more confused than shocked. The men's grip on my loosened just barely enough, and I broke loose, running as fast as I could for the highway. My heart pounding, adrenaline coursing through, letting me push past the ache and pain in my joints and my ragged gasping for air. I kept running and running past the burn in my lungs and the tightness in my throat. After what felt like an eternity, I finally saw headlights in the distance. I waved my arms, screaming until my voice gave out, and he stopped for me. I explained my situation, that someone was trying to kill me. He let me into his car and started driving to a nearby town. Toward the diner, I began to panic, to tell him to turn around to the highway, that the people who attacked me were this way. And he looked at me confused. That the highway was nowhere nearby. There was no Mabel's Diner. That there was no exit 202. A feeling of pure fear flooded me. We drove for a while, and as I saw the lights of the town in the distance, the man was right. There were no signs of my assailants. There were no signs of the diner, no signs of my truck. The cornfields ended, and I was greeted by a small Midwestern town. The man dropped me off at the local police station, and I gave them my statement. They called my boss about the situation, and they sent someone in the area to swing by and bring me back home. When I got back and tried reporting my truck and all its details, they gave me the most confusing revelation yet. My truck was still in the garage. Only when I went to check on it, it wasn't the same truck. Different license plate, the color was a different shade, and the keys in my pocket did not work on this one. I brought it up to my supervisor, and he looked just as confused as I did. The keys didn't go to any truck in the garage, or on any on the record ever. I still have the keys now, not sure what to do with them. I quit pretty soon after, not a big fan of leaving my town, much less the state. Especially those cornfields. God, I hate those cornfields. I'm just trying to separate from it all. I'm worried that this might be a curse for me, because on the highway to get my groceries today, I saw an exit 143. And despite all the information I looked for it online, there is no exit 143. I freaking love stories that are like about a loop or about like taking a wrong turn and then that turn doesn't actually exist. That's like my bread and butter. That's like my jam. Glittering Slip, amazing job. I admired your work greatly. It was paced good. It was kind of confusing. I love stories like that. And that was the last one. I have been reading for a really long time. My throat hurts. Let's give a big round of applause to everyone's stories tonight. They slayed and they slayed hard. Amazing job, everyone. Amazing. And it's a really good way to kick off the spooky season. Happy October! And No Sleep actually has some really well-written stories. I'm impressed. So thank you all so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed, and hopefully I will see you all here next time.